The Christmas lights twinkled along the ferry's railing as it cut through the dark waters. Between Manhattan and Staten Island, most passengers had retreated inside to escape the December cold. But Adrian Cole remained on the deck, seeking solitude. From another empty holiday season. At 43, Adrian had everything the world measured as success: a real estate empire spanning 3 continents, wealth beyond measure, a penthouse that overlooked the city. Yet tonight, surrounded by families heading home for Christmas Eve, he had never felt more isolated. He was about to head inside when he heard a soft voice behind him. "Excuse me, sir, can you lift me up to see the sky?" Adrian turned to find a young woman in a wheelchair, bundled in a grey sweater against the cold. Her blonde hair caught the Christmas lights, and when she smiled at him, it was with a warmth that seemed to cut through the winter air. "The railing is blocking my view," she explained. "I wanted to see the stars, but from down here I can only see the lights on the deck. I know it is a strange request, but everyone else went inside and you are the only one here." Adrian hesitated. In his world of calculated risks and careful boundaries, this was completely outside his experience. But something about her gentle smile and the simple honesty of her request made him step forward. "Of course," he said. "How would you like me to do this? If you could just help me stand for a moment, I can hold onto you for balance. My legs do not work well, but I can bear weight for a little while." Carefully, Adrian helped her to her feet, supporting her weight as she leaned against him and looked up at the night sky. A shooting star streaked across the darkness, and she gasped with delight. "Did you see that? A shooting star on Christmas Eve. That has to mean something wonderful." "What did you wish for?" Adrian asked, surprised to find himself smiling. "I cannot tell you, or it will not come true," she said with mock seriousness. "But I will say it had nothing to do with walking again. I have learned to wish for things that actually matter." After a moment, she signaled she needed to sit, and Adrian carefully helped her back into her wheelchair. She gestured to the empty space beside her. "Would you keep me company? Everyone says you should not be alone on Christmas Eve, but here we both are, by ourselves on a ferry deck." Adrian found himself sitting on the cold bench beside her wheelchair. "I am Adrian, Natalie," she said, extending her hand. "And before you ask, yes, I know who you are, Adrian Cole, the man who owns half of Manhattan. My question is, why is someone like you spending Christmas Eve alone on a public ferry?" The directness of her question caught him off guard. "I could ask you the same thing." "Fair enough. I will go first." Natalie pulled her sweater tighter. "I was visiting my grandmother in Staten Island. She is in hospice care. I wanted to spend Christmas Eve with her because it will probably be our last one together. My ride fell through, so here I am on the ferry, heading back to my tiny apartment in Brooklyn." "I am sorry about your grandmother," Adrian said quietly. "Thank you. She lived a full life. She always tells me that quality matters more than quantity, in years and in everything else." Natalie tilted her head. "Now why are you here?" Adrian looked out at the dark water. "Because going home to an empty penthouse felt unbearable tonight. I thought maybe being around other people, even strangers on a ferry, would be less lonely than sitting in luxury by myself." "That is the saddest thing I have heard all day," Natalie said gently. "And I spent the evening in a hospice." Despite himself, Adrian laughed. "You are very direct. Life is too short for anything else. I learned that when I was paralyzed in a car accident 3 years ago. It teaches you to say what you mean and ask for what you need, like requesting that handsome strangers lift you up to see stars." Adrian felt his face warm. "How did the accident happen?" "Drunk driver ran a red light. Killed my fiancée instantly. Left me with a broken back and a broken life to rebuild." She said it matter-of-factly, without self-pity. I was angry for a long time. Angry at the driver, at God, at my own body for betraying me. But anger is exhausting when you have to live with it every day. So what did you do? I chose different questions. Instead of why did this happen to me, I started asking what can I do with what I still have. Instead of what did I lose, I asked, what remains? Turns out, quite a lot remains. Like what? Adrian asked, genuinely curious. I still have hands that can paint. I am an illustrator now, working from home. I still have a mind that works perfectly well. I still have a heart that can love, even though I was terrified to open it again after losing someone. And I still have eyes that can see shooting stars when kind strangers lift me up to see the sky. Adrian felt something shift inside him. You make it sound simple. It is not simple at all. Natalie corrected gently. It is the hardest thing I have ever done. Choosing hope over bitterness, gratitude over resentment, connection over isolation. Every single day is a choice. Some days I make the right choice. Some days I do not. But I keep choosing. I think I have been making the wrong choices for a very long time. Adrian admitted. I thought success would fill the emptiness. That achieving more would matter more. But it does not. So what would matter? Natalie asked. The question hung in the cold air between them. Adrian realized he did not have an answer. I do not know anymore, he said honestly. Then maybe that is where you start. By admitting you do not know. By being willing to learn. Natalie smiled. And maybe by spending less time alone in penthouses and more time on ferry decks. Talking to wheelchair girls who ask strangers for help. They talked for the rest of the crossing. Long after Adrian's hands had gone numb from the cold, Natalie told him about her illustration work, her grandmother's stories, her small Brooklyn apartment that she loved despite its size. Adrian found himself sharing things he had never told anyone: his loneliness, his regrets, his fear that he had built an empire but lost his humanity somewhere in the process. When the ferry docked, Adrian did not want to say goodbye. Can I see you again? He asked. Not because I'm rich or because you need something, but because talking to you tonight made me feel more alive than I have in years. Natalie studied him carefully. Are you sure? Dating someone in a wheelchair is not like the movies. It means accessible restaurants and ramps instead of stairs. It means patience on hard days. It means I would get to spend time with someone who reminds me what actually matters. Adrian interrupted. Someone who asks to see the stars instead of assuming they are out of reach. Someone who chose hope when it would have been easier to choose bitterness. Natalie smiled. That warm smile that had first caught his attention. All right, Adrian Cole. You can take me to dinner, but I am picking the place. And I promise it will not be anywhere fancy. Over the following months, Natalie showed Adrian a different kind of life. They had dinner at hole-in-the-wall restaurants where the food was incredible, and the ambience did not matter. They visited art galleries where Natalie taught him to see beauty he had rushed past before. They spent evenings in her tiny apartment, painting and talking and discovering that connection had nothing to do with luxury. You are different now, Adrian's business partner observed one day. Happier, more present. I met someone who taught me to ask better questions, Adrian said simply. 6 months after that Christmas Eve, Adrian took Natalie back to the ferry. He had arranged for a private crossing, the deck decorated with lights and flowers. What is all this? Natalie asked, laughing. You asked me that night what would matter, Adrian said, kneeling beside her wheelchair. I finally have an answer. You matter. Helping you see the stars matters. Building a life with someone who taught me that success is not about what you accumulate, but about who you become that matters. He pulled out a ring. Natalie, will you marry me? Will you keep teaching me to make better choices, to ask better questions, to see the beauty I have been missing? Will you let me spend the rest of my life lifting you up to see stars and being lifted up by your courage? Through her tears, Natalie nodded. Yes, but only if you promise to keep riding public ferries sometimes, even though you can afford private yachts. I promise, Adrian said, laughing. Because the most valuable thing I ever found was on a public ferry, asking a stranger for help. They were married the following Christmas, with Natalie's grandmother watching from her wheelchair, both women crying happy tears, and every Christmas Eve after that. They rode the Staten Island ferry together, standing on the deck regardless of the weather, looking up at the stars. Thank you, Adrian would say each year, holding Natalie close. For what? She would ask, though she knew the answer. For asking me to lift you up. For teaching me that sometimes we all need help reaching the things that matter most. For showing me that real wealth is not measured in properties owned, but in moments shared with someone who helps you see clearly. And Natalie would smile and point to the sky, where shooting stars still streaked across the darkness, carrying wishes that had nothing to do with walking and everything to do with love. If this story reminded you that we all need help reaching for what matters most, please like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment about a time when asking for help changed your life. Your story might inspire someone to reach out today.